Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Todd Sanders, President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallegos' annual State of the City Address. The Greater Phoenix Chamber has the unique privilege, and it is a unique privilege, of partnering with the City of Phoenix to bring you this important event, to hear critical information about our city. We thank the mayor and her amazing team for their continued dedication of working with the business community, with the chamber, and our community at large to bring you this important event. And most importantly, after 2 years, we're back in person. So awesome to see all of you here today. I can't tell you how happy we are. So welcome back. And as I was talking to folks today, I think we're maybe 25 shy of our BC before Corona number. And so just awesome to have you all here with us today. Now, to begin our program, now that you all sat down, I'd like you to please stand for the presentation of colors by the Phoenix Fire Honor Guard, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Adam Jeldon. Adam is an incoming freshman at Brophy College Prep and a proud member of St. Mary's Protectorate Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Adam's mom, who's with us today, Nicole, is from Ukraine and worked as a diplomat prior to immigrating to the United States. As I'm sure you've noticed, we have some sunflowers on the stage today. In Ukraine, the sunflower is not only the national flower, but it has historically represented a symbol of peace. We at the Chamber and our friends at the city and the mayor stand with the people of Ukraine and thank Adam and his family for being here today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you to our honor guard and to Adam for being here. Please be seated. Adam, I don't think you're ever going to have a crowd this large at Brophy next time you speak in public, so you're going to do a great job. Congrats. So again, thank you for joining us. I would like at this time to thank our event sponsors who not only make today's event possible, but especially when you think about the last 2 years, these folks and these companies have been instrumental in ensuring that our community remains strong and prosperous during the difficult times. So I'm going to go ahead and let you know a little bit about our sponsors today. Our gold sponsors are Arizona Public Service, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona, Bristol Myers Squibb, and Southwest Airlines. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Our silver sponsors are Arizona State University, Red Development, Republic Services, University of Arizona, Valleywise Health, and Waymo. Our bronze sponsors are Amazon, American Airlines, the American Institute of Architects, Metro Phoenix, Phoenix Commerce Authority, Associated General Contractors, sorry Dave Martin, Banner Health, Dignity Health, St. Joseph Hospital and Medical Center, DPR Construction, EPCOR, Gannett Fleming, HDR Engineering, Hensel Phelps, HMS Host, Kitchell, Maricopa Community Colleges, Mayo Clinic, McCarthy Building Companies, the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, Salt River Project, Southwest Gas Corporation, Support Sky Harbor Coalition, Phoenix, and Visit Phoenix. And our copper sponsors are Alliance Bank of Arizona, Freeport McMoran Incorporated. Let's give them a round of applause, please. We also have some media partners, the Arizona Capital Times, KTAR News, 92.3 FM, Univision, and Video West. Let's give all our sponsors a round of applause, please. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to welcome some of our members of the City Council, some folks from the legislature, as well as some other special guests who are joining us today. When I call your name, if you could just wave and stand and wave if you feel like you can do that, we'd certainly appreciate that. I'd ask you all to hold your applause until we go through the whole list, or we'll be here till dinner. But we certainly do want to recognize everyone at the end. So I'm going to start with the first one. You are going to want to clap because it's Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego. From the City Council, we also have Vice Mayor Laura Pastor, Councilman Yamin Asnari, Council Member Betty Guardado, Council Member Ann O'Brien, Council Member Deborah Stark, and also her friend City Manager Jeff Barton. We're also honored to have the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Kathy Hoffman, Arizona Corporation Commissioner Leah Marquez Peterson. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. From the state legislature, we have Senator Sean Bowie, we have Representative Reginald Bolding, Representative Brian Fernandez, Representative Melanie Hernandez, Representative Sarah Ligori, Representative Jennifer Langdon, and Representative Marcelino Quinones. Let's give them a round of applause. And the Honorable Mayor from Buckeye, Eric Osborne. Let's give him a round of applause. From the Maricopa Community College District Board Chair, Marie Sullivan, and Tohono O'odham Legislative Council Chairman Timothy Joaquin, SRP Utility District Chairman David Rousseau, as well as from the Arizona Water Conservation District, we have board members Alexandra Arboleda, Heather McRae, Terry Goddard, Benjamin Graff, Jennifer Martin, and Jennifer Brown. Let's give them a round of applause. And this is a point of personal privilege. My former roommate and our awesome Deputy Director of Planning for Phoenix, Josh Badnarik, who's here. So Josh, we're going to clap for you. He does a lot of work behind the scenes you'll never know, but he's an amazing guy. And then finally, we have the Honorable Jorge Mendoza Yasquez, Consul General for Mexico and Arizona. Eric Anderson, Executive Director of Maricopa Association of Governments. Our chair-elect for the Greater Phoenix Chamber, Aaron Mattel, is here. The interim Chancellor of Maricopa Community Colleges, Dr. Stephen Gonzalez. My partner in crime at GPL, the president and CEO, Neil Giuliano. Cheryl Lombard, president and CEO of Valley Partnership. Kim Sabos, president and CEO of the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association. And last, but certainly not least, our good friend Steve Zylstra, who's the president and CEO of the Arizona Technology Council. Welcome to all of you. We're so pleased to have you. So now we're going to take a break, enjoy your lunch, and we'll be back with the main event. Thank you.
To continue our program, please welcome back to the stage Mr. Todd Sanders.
Welcome back, everyone. Please continue enjoying your lunch while we continue the program. I neglected a few folks on our list, so just bear with me. I don't want to miss anybody in terms of some special guests. From the Maricopa County Special Health District, District 2, we have Mark Duane. Mark, welcome. We also have the president and CEO of the Flynn Foundation, Tammy McLeod, who we all know very well, does awesome work. And then, speaking of awesome work, I can't believe I forgot Carla Vargas Jassa, who's the president and CEO of the Valley of the Sun United Way. Such an amazing leader. Thank you for being here, Carla. So I would like to now take a moment to recognize one of our partners, Southwest Airlines. I got to say, traveling around the country, we consider ourselves lucky to have such a strong partner in Southwest. And I want to thank them publicly, not only for the support of the Chamber, but our city, as they continue to demonstrate their willingness to invest in our region each and every year. So now it's my privilege to introduce Mr. Steve Cisneros, who's the Vice President of Airport Affairs for Southwest Airlines, to share some remarks. Please welcome Steve to the stage.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here in person. And first, thank you to the Greater Phoenix Chamber of Commerce for inviting our team today. We are all thrilled to be here. And let me take a second. We have our Southwest team over here. Everyone wave for us, please. Thanks for coming in town. Thanks for being here. I'd also like to express our sincerest appreciation for Mayor Gallego, the City of Phoenix, Airport Director Chad Makovsky, and the entire team at Sky Harbor. You, the community leaders, would also like to thank our customers for the gracious support of more than 40 years of serving you with our heart and our hospitality. It's been no secret that the last 2.5 years have been challenging for those of us in the airline industry. As we emerge from the depths of the pandemic, things are looking brighter as more people are traveling again for business and leisure. And even during the height of the pandemic, Phoenix remained a strong destination on the Southwest network, as so many people were looking for places that had plenty of outdoor activities. Things such as hiking, golfing, and everything you know that makes the Valley a great place to live, work, and play. Now, as we focus on the future and getting our feet under us again, we're thrilled to continue to grow. Today, we carry the most number of Arizonans to and from the state than any other airline. And all that traffic means we can support you when you choose to travel. And this summer, we're excited to open a new 8-gate concourse in Terminal 4, giving us the ability to have 32 gates at Sky Harbor. This new concourse has bigger gate areas, more amenities, plenty of windows, and of course to look out on your favorite airplane, the Southwest Boeing 737. Additionally, we're hard at work with some behind-the-scenes projects such as expanding our large maintenance hangar here at Sky Harbor, adding additional space for ground support equipment and our provisioning teams. And we're also hiring in all operational work groups. So if you know anyone that wants to work for one of the world's most admired companies, and you get free flights, just pointing that out, come visit us at careers.southwestair.com. And just to give you some perspective, we're looking to hire about 10,000 people this year. So if you know anybody wants to be part of our family, please tell them to give us a call. One of the things that I love about Southwest is that while we're an airline, we do some of our best work actually on the ground. Whoops. In 2020, we invested more than $1.2 million through travel and cash contributions throughout the greater Phoenix community, and our people gave back by nearly 2,700 hours to more than 80 organizations throughout the valley. We're also celebrating our 15th year of our medical transportation grant program, which eases the financial burden for families traveling for life-changing and sometimes life-saving medical care. Since our program began, we've donated nearly $575,000 in tickets to 4 local hospitals and medical organizations, including Phoenix Children's Hospital, St. Joseph's Hospital Medical Center, Banner Health, and the Mayo Clinic, which is new to our program this year. And as we enter into our next era here in Phoenix, we're excited about the future continuing to be your airline of choice, and most importantly, say it again, being the strong piece of fabric of this wonderful community that both our employees and our customers call home. Thanks for having us.
Steve, thank you, and thank you to Southwest Airlines for all the love they show us here in Phoenix. We really appreciate it. So now the moment we're all here for today, the moment we've all been waiting for, and for those of you who've been with us before, and at least in the times we were together, we usually, at this point, bring the mayor up and she's able to do her State of the City. We're going to do that, of course, but we're also going to then transition after she's done. We're going to have a brief Q&A here, so I encourage you to stick around so we can have sort of more of a fireside chat after she gives her State of the City. It'll just take about 30 seconds to do a set change, but we hope you can stay with us for that. I think you will appreciate it. So, going back in time, March 2019, Mayor Gallego became the second elected female mayor in the city of Phoenix for the United States. In November 2020, she was returned to office with the highest number of votes ever cast for a mayoral candidate. And to say her first few years were unusual would be kind of an understatement. Despite, to put it lightly, the many obstacles she faced, her vision for Phoenix never wavered. She's committed to business growth in our state, demonstrating leadership on diversifying our economy with a strong focus on innovation, strengthening infrastructure investment, and working to make Phoenix a leader in sustainability, all while maintaining a strong relationship between business and government. I'm sure many of you know the mayor, along with the amazing Chris Mackey, was instrumental in landing the city's largest ever business development deal, a $12 billion deal with a company you might have heard before, TSMC. You might have heard that before. They're absolutely. We are so pleased to have them here. And that's a significant issue for Phoenix, to have this kind of economic development. It's going to bring returns for decades to come. She's also leading the city to a global status as a leader in bioscience, technology, research, as well as advanced manufacturing. Mayor's also leading Phoenix to become the most sustainable desert city in the United States. Quite a laudable goal. She's fostered investments in cool solutions, including the nation's first publicly funded Office for Heat Response and Mitigation, launched the city's successful Cool Pavement pilot, and led the charge towards building the necessary EV infrastructure to meet ever-increasing demand for those vehicles. And of course, she's also a proud mom. She's a mom to a 5-year-old son, Michael. We'll talk a little bit about Michael later on. So we're just so encouraged by all that's gone on, and really looking forward to hearing what she has to say in terms of where we've been, but also where we're going. So without further ado, please stand and join me in welcoming our esteemed mayor to the stage, Mayor Kate Gallego.
Good afternoon. Todd, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you to the Phoenix Chamber for gathering us all here today. Thank you to my fellow elected officials, tribal nation leaders, and to you, the business community, who have joined us. It is so good to see you in person. Beginning only 2 years ago, this city and this country faced one of the most difficult foes we've ever encountered. The COVID-19 pandemic disrupted nearly every aspect of our lives. Combined with a recession, national and world politics, and a host of additional challenges, the last 2 years have become one of the most significant pivot points in the history of Phoenix. Through it all, we have reaffirmed our resilience. As a city, we looked hard at what we were doing. We rethought fiscal management. We dug deep and found ways to help those who needed it most. We did more than survive. We found ways to thrive. Here are some examples. During the pandemic, with the arrival of TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, we closed the largest economic development deal in city history. Although we are not a health authority in Arizona, Phoenix delivered a total of nearly 300,000 tests and vaccinations citywide. Phoenix is now among the top 5 of the nation's emerging life science markets and #1 for job growth in life sciences emerging markets. We won a $1 million prize for innovation. We gave away thousands of laptops so children across the city could continue to learn. We expanded the community assistance program to better care for those who suffer mental and behavioral health issues and simultaneously ease the burden on our police officers. We kept people in their homes by preventing eviction, helping with rent and utility payments. And since I've been in office, Phoenix has issued more than 22,000 permits for new single-family homes and multifamily units. It was a lot. It was hard, and it worked. So as I stand before you today to report on the state of the city, my message to you is this: Phoenix is rising again. You may wonder why we're rising and succeeding in such difficult times. One of the reasons is a person who is with us today, our new city manager, Jeff Barton. Building on the work of his predecessor, Jeff's smart, strategic, and forward-thinking approach to the management of city resources is an important reason why we have achieved so much. It's also the reason that Phoenix is entering the current budget year in a strong position. Jeff, thank you for your leadership. Another key factor in our rise is Phoenix's relentless commitment to creating high-quality jobs. As someone who worked in economic development before running for office, this is personal for me. As you may have noticed, I never get tired about talking about Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. With its $12 billion investment, TSMC remains one of the most important assets we've attracted to Phoenix. Councilwoman Ann O'Brien, you have been an amazing partner to me as we continue to work to ensure the success of this economic sector so critical to Phoenix's future. TSMC continues to do precisely what we expected it to do, bringing even more supporting businesses to the area. In January, Sunlit Chemical, one of TSMC's suppliers, broke ground on its $100 million factory. Foxlink, a producer of green energy products, has announced it will open its first US factory here. TSMC continues to draw a steady stream of these types of businesses, and I'm delighted to have representatives from these Taiwan-based companies with us here today. Not only that, we're working with our higher education partners and providing funding to the Maricopa Community Colleges to create a talent pipeline that will fill semiconductor jobs, offering an excellent quality of life for those who take them. Thank you, Chancellor Stephen Gonzalez, Board President Marie Sullivan, and the entire board for your partnership. This partnership is so exciting, it drew First Lady Dr. Jill Biden to Phoenix. I told her then what I'd like to share with you now. I intend Phoenix to be the strongest semiconductor hub in the United States with the best semiconductor training programs in the world. During COVID, desperate need became the mother of innovation. We all remember too well the initial shortage of testing in the early days of the pandemic. People waited for hours just to find out if they were sick or not. Phoenix is not the branch of government responsible for public health, but we saw a need and we responded. We brought fixed test sites to parts of the city. Then we came up with a whole new idea. Why not create mobile testing units that could move daily and meet people near where they lived? Not only did it worked brilliantly. Later, when vaccines became available, our testing vans also became mobile vaccination units. Through our investments, we delivered the 300,000 tests and vaccinations I mentioned earlier. It's the kind of innovative, creative solution that defines the city of Phoenix. Before I leave the subject of COVID, it's my privilege to recognize a group of people in this audience who deserve our deepest gratitude. They are the healthcare providers, hospitals, pharmacies, and insurers who push themselves to the physical and emotional limit to take care of those who were sick and helped so many recover even when the odds weren't good. Please join me in offering our sincerest thanks to all those healthcare heroes who are with us today. The lessons we learned from mobile testing and vaccination inspired us to take more city services into the community. You tell me every day how hard it is to hire the right people. As we thought about what to do to help, our conversations kept coming back to the vans. Was it possible to use the vans for recruiting? What about providing a way to do safe, socially distanced job interviews for those who may not have stable broadband or even a computer? Our mobile career unit turned out to be, quite literally, $1 million idea. Phoenix competed with 631 cities in 99 countries to win the Bloomberg Philanthropies Global Mayors Challenge. I tried out the mobile career unit and was quite impressed with how it works. A hiring manager from Renaissance Hotels used the remote link in the van to interview me. Did not get a job offer. But it was great to see firsthand what an asset this will be in improving futures citywide. With us today is a high school student who was hired through the mobile career unit. Robert, thank you for trusting in us. As Phoenix continues to rise, our success will depend on filling the job pipeline with well-educated, well-trained candidates. Earlier, I mentioned our cooperative effort with the community colleges to prepare people for jobs in the semiconductor industry. It's one of many education partnerships we established. To keep students citywide connected and ready for distance learning, our Youth and Education Office partnered with School Connect to provide nearly 10,000 internet-enabled laptops and tablets to students most in need. And with the Arizona Department of Education, we were able to offer laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots for checkout at Phoenix libraries. It was critical to our students. For example, my son Michael, who was 3 at the time, was learning the alphabet. Who knew? Heaven knows I did not, how hard it is to teach the alphabet. I had to use Google to try to figure out the best way to do it. I believe many other parents needed the same connectivity that I did. That experience forever affirmed my respect for those who teach. To my fellow mom, Superintendent Kathy Hoffman, thank you for partnering with me to make learning a priority during the pandemic. The city also confirmed its commitment to higher education with a significant financial investment in the ASU Thunderbird School of Global Management, a bipartisan vote of the City Council. Tonight, we will celebrate with ASU and Thunderbird as they officially open the new global headquarters in downtown Phoenix. Many thanks are due to ASU President Michael Crow and Thunderbird's leader, Dr. Sanjeev Kagram, for creating the most tech-savvy and connected global management school in the world. On the subject of international trade, we're building on Mexico's burgeoning market for silicon chips, vehicle parts, electric vehicles, and other high-tech products. I've spoken with ambassadors on both sides of the border about the opportunities to onshore supply chains to the Americas. To that end, I'm very pleased to report that we have rededicated our trade office in Hermosillo. Many thanks to Councilmember Carlos Garcia and Councilwoman Betty Guardado for traveling to Hermosillo and reinforcing our commitment to this important relationship. Our partners in Mexico are very interested in the work we are doing on electric vehicles, with good reason. Our region is beginning to be referred to as the Electric Valley, not only because of the cars and chargers, but also because we're becoming a hub for manufacture of components for electric cars and charging equipment. We're doing so well that a reporter recently asked me if Phoenix was in danger of following Detroit's path and becoming too dependent on the motor vehicle industry. Talk about an economic transition for a city that's been so closely linked to industries such as the housing sector. Councilwoman Yasmin Ansari has been instrumental in the effort to expand the use of electric vehicles in Phoenix, and I thank her for that important partnership. As I've said, Phoenix is rising as a global player. As part of the world community, we are united in our outrage on the unwarranted attack on Ukraine. As Todd mentioned, the sunflowers you see are on stage remind us of our unity with the Ukrainian people. When I asked the city's pension system, known as COPERS, to consider relinquishing their Russian investments, they were on it. As of yesterday, COPERS made the commitment to divest itself from all financial interests in Russia. Before COVID, the fastest area of growth in our economy was healthcare and biosciences. I was worried that while we were responding to the virus, that investment in innovation would slow in other areas of health. But the city kept investing in healthcare jobs, and so did our partners. In emerging markets, we are #1 in job growth in life sciences right now. The success for companies and nonprofits that fight cancer is particularly meaningful to me this year. I lost my mom to cancer a few months ago. My mom was diagnosed in 2016. She fought through incredible pain to be there for me and my son when we needed her during really tough times. In 2017, I had a baby, got divorced, moved, and filed to run for mayor. I very much don't recommend doing all of that in 1 year. The truth is, I couldn't have done it without a lot of support, especially from my mom, and she couldn't have done it without great medical care. I want that great medical care for everyone in this community. For that reason, I was enthusiastic in my support for $300 million in healthcare revenue facilities bonds for the Mayo Clinic expansion, which was a unanimous vote of the Phoenix City Council. The City of Phoenix is honored to be home to the Mayo Discovery Oasis, located on 228 acres next to the existing facility. Along with 3 million square feet of space for research, education, and patient care, the Discovery Oasis will bring 2,000 good jobs, including 200 physicians and scientists. The expansion will allow more Phoenicians to get access to top-line care in areas such as cancer treatment, and I'm very excited about the work the campus will do to support tribal communities. I'm also tremendously grateful for the work Mayo is undertaking with Adelante and Mountain Park, federally qualified health centers. Their combined emphasis on screening and treatment for breast and other cancers in Latina members of our community is powerful and positive. Just across the wash from the Mayo expansion, you'll find ASU's Health Futures Center, a joint venture between Arizona State University and Mayo, with $8.8 million in infrastructure support from the city of Phoenix. It's home to leading-edge biomedical engineering and informatics labs, along with an innovative education zone. My deep thanks go to Councilman Jim Waring for the tremendous work he has done to bring this important bioscience corridor into being. The investments in healthcare and fighting cancer are not just happening in North Phoenix. The Banner MD Anderson partnership is delivering big results. President Robert Robbins and the University of Arizona have several incredible partnerships. At President Robbins' invitation, I joined the advisory board of CAMI, the Center for Advanced Molecular and Immunological Therapies. One area where CAMI will focus is on personalized cancer treatment, finding biological therapies we can tailor for use on specific cancers and other infectious diseases. Together with ASU Wexford, CAMI will serve as the anchor that differentiates Phoenix from other emerging life science hubs, establishing the Phoenix Biosciences Core as the center of gene therapy research, engineering, startup activity, and corporate engagement. U of A's neighbor, TGen, has been an economic engine as well, and I'm personally thankful for the consulting advice and data that they provided to me during the pandemic. Support from Phoenix voters helped recruit TGen to our downtown, and our city is glad to be home to partners such as Exact Sciences and Honor Health that are now bringing tools developed by TGen to patients. As care improves in our city, we're working to make sure our City of Phoenix family benefits. We have been leading the way on early detection of cancer in firefighters and police officers, a partnership championed by Vice Mayor Laura Pastor. I hope that if your coworkers or family ever need cancer care, you'll find that we have the very best right here in Phoenix. And while I'm mayor, I pledge to keep working to make our city a leader in fighting this disease. As I've said it many times before, and I will say again, I firmly believe that the path to cure cancer runs through Phoenix. The business of science is advancing in Phoenix. Indeed, companies of all stripes are choosing our city as the place where they want to be. For example, I have the privilege today of sharing with you that Sendoso is bringing its corporate headquarters to Phoenix. This software company has raised more than $152 million. It's a woman-led company that was recruited in partnership with GPEC. With its move to Phoenix, Sendoso will bring 700 good jobs. As we celebrate new businesses, we want to help existing businesses and nonprofits get through the challenges that face them. Over the past year, Phoenix has directed more than $8 million to supporting micro and small businesses, as well as $2.7 million for our arts and culture organizations. Throughout Phoenix, you'll find examples of small businesses that received grants from the city. There's Roosevelt Rose, Grassroot Books, and Juice Bar that feature shelves upon shelves of books by Black authors. Woman-owned JP Auto Repair on the west side of town, another woman-owned business, Stapleton Roofing in North Phoenix, and Carlos Castillo's Chino Mex restaurant on South Central. Small business is big business in the city of Phoenix. Incidentally, if you know a small business that could still use some help, grant applications are being accepted through April 15th, and you can find out more information on the city's website. Part of Phoenix's promise to businesses and to the families who live and relocate here is safety. The demands on our public safety agencies are intense. The Phoenix Fire Department dispatches for a total of 30 jurisdictions. In 2021, that amounted to more than 1 million calls for service, with nearly 500,000 dispatches. The Phoenix Police Department runs on more than 2,500 calls each and every day. We depend on them. We ask them to keep us safe and to be willing to lay down their lives for us. On February 11th, 9 Phoenix police officers were shot or injured by shrapnel while in the line of duty. Because of their bravery and sacrifice, a baby is alive today. The incident was among the most chilling and horrifying ones I can recall. But this is the reality our officers face daily. Indeed, many officers reach far beyond the work they are assigned to do. Like the officer who, on a cold day in January, encountered an unsheltered man with no socks or shoes. The officer spent $80 of his own money to buy that man shoes and warm clothing. Or like Officer Jackie Ravello, who donated her own kidney to ensure a friend's 10-year-old daughter would survive. Officer Ravello is here with us today. Please let her know how much you appreciate her. I also want to pause a moment to thank Councilwoman Deborah Stark. Deb attends every Block Watch meeting she can get to and knows every community action officer in her district. She sees the person behind the badge, not the uniform. She understands the critical work our police officers do in the communities they serve. Thank you, Deb Stark. I offer my thanks to Valleywise, Banner, St. Joseph's, and Honor Health for being part of our response system, caring for our injured officers. You are valued as you help us respond to the difficult and dangerous situations police officers encounter. It's also true that we ask our officers to do tasks that are far outside of law enforcement. Prominent among those is dealing with individuals suffering mental or behavioral health issues. As I mentioned at the start, last year, the City Council and I approved one of the largest ever commitments to modernizing public safety, $15 million for the expanded Community Assistance Program. CAP places trained behavioral health professionals in the field to respond to calls that would previously have been assigned to police officers. The first CAP unit under the expanded program will roll in early summer. This new effort will ease the load on our officers, freeing them to do critical law enforcement work. Is our department perfect? No. No police agency in the country is without its flaws. We know our community has high expectations that we have not always met. I also understand that our challenges cannot be solved by funding alone. Body-worn cameras have afforded us transparency in police interaction in the community, and we will continue to find more and more effective ways to earn the trust of our citizens. Each and every day, I want to recognize the Phoenix Police Department does important work to make our community better. I joined a bipartisan majority of the City Council to support a 9% raise for our officers, as well as a $7,500 bonus for new hires and existing officers who stay on the job. So today, I say publicly and without reservation, I have never and will never defund the Phoenix Police Department. And I suspect you agree with me. I have had it with violent attacks on our police officers. We must keep them safe. We began this week with terrible gun violence in Sacramento. Recently, a shooting at a Glendale shopping mall jeopardized the life of a young child. Enough. We must all come together to address gun violence in our communities. Phoenix continues to rise again by providing transportation and transit to move people efficiently and quickly through our vast geographic area. I described my vision to you during my first State of the City remarks in 2019. Since then, we've made extraordinary progress. Our transit system helps essential workers power this city, gets kids to school, and makes it possible for older adults to live out their lives at home. The federal government has partnered with us to fund the South Central Light Rail Line, the new downtown rail hub, and the Northwest Extension that will connect Metro Center to downtown. I offer my deepest thanks to our senators Kellyanne Sinema, Representatives Greg Stanton, and Ruben Gallego, all of whom worked with us closely to get the job done. Perhaps like me, you remember when our streets when COVID was at its worst. They were deserted. I pray if we ever see that situation again, it's not for the same reason. Yet because of the reduced traffic, we got more done. As a result, we are nearing completion of the $200 million 5-year accelerated pavement plan. By the time the work is complete, we will have repaved more than 250 miles of major streets in Phoenix. This is an issue of great importance to Councilman Sal DiCiccio. As we look toward the future of transportation for our city and the region, one of the most important things we can do is extend the half-cent sales tax created by Proposition 400. Mayors across the valley have reached unanimous bipartisan consensus on a plan to pay for continued transportation development. I want to thank today's host, the Phoenix Chamber of Commerce, as well as partners in this room for the continued support and for seeing value in the original Prop 400. I look forward to working with you as we call on the state legislature to pass the enabling legislation necessary to bring Prop 400 extension to the ballot. To keep Phoenix on the rise, we need to move the needle on housing. I want my son, Michael, to be able to buy a house someday, and I imagine you share that hope for the young people in your life. Diamond Age 3D is a company whose innovations may bring us all that closer to that goal. This next-gen tech company uses an automated robot to extrude concrete and 3D print new homes on site. It's fast, and I'm told you can't tell the difference between these houses and traditional construction. They're moving their headquarters of the company to Phoenix, joining a long tradition of innovative home builders in our city. One of the first policies I proposed as mayor was the Housing Phoenix Plan, with the stated goal to build or preserve 50,000 homes by 2030. It includes 9 policy areas such as redeveloping city-owned land and developing better landlord incentives. We're almost halfway there, which is exceptional progress and far ahead of where we expected to be. Equally noteworthy is the work the city has done to help keep vulnerable families in their homes during the pandemic and beyond. As of March 30th, we have provided $78 million in rental and utility relief to thousands, as well as eviction prevention assistance. As a member of the City Council before I ran for mayor, we started work on Edison Eastlake, an area that contained the largest concentration of public housing in the state. Since then, Edison Eastlake is rising from its own ashes. We're transforming old, worn-out, moldy buildings into more than 1,000 heat-resilient, affordable, livable housing units. The city also continues to provide shelter and housing to people experiencing homelessness. We have a hotels to housing program with partners such as US Vets and Central Arizona Shelter Services. We've invested in navigators to connect people with services, and the City Council just approved a program to hire people experiencing homelessness to help clean up our community. We're investing more resources than ever before. We will continue to make these types of investments. However, we must acknowledge that homelessness is not a Phoenix-only problem. It's a regional and statewide concern. I'm grateful to my fellow mayors who, for the first time ever, came together to create a regional plan to address homelessness. I hope that by now you're in agreement with me that Phoenix is rising. We are a center of business innovation and worldwide influence. We're compassionate, yet we're doing what's necessary to enforce the law and keep our community safe. We're creating opportunity, whether it's in education, housing, or building a leading-edge career. We took an incredibly difficult time and turned it into an incredible opportunity for innovation and growth. Many years ago, the artist Paul Coase created an extraordinary mural in Terminal 2 at Sky Harbor. Called appropriately, the Phoenix, the massive artwork incorporates elements of soil and sand, modern materials, and old ones, even a child's toy. I was in awe as it was unveiled in its new location last year. It took creativity and planning to dismantle it and move it. It took a remarkable conservation effort to preserve it and install it in its new home in the airport's rental car center. In the ancient story, the immortal Phoenix destroys itself by fire in order to rise again. Now we are living in a wonderful, modern, innovative twist to the story. No longer must the Phoenix destroy itself. Indeed, it rises forever higher, and we rise with it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in your seats. Our program will resume momentarily.
great job for us.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Another round of applause for our mayor. You know, Mayor, as I was listening to all that has gone on since the last time we met in a studio, it's astounding. It's incredible, and clearly you have a lot of partners on the city council and everywhere else to do a lot of this work. But you know, talk. What's it like? What's a day in the life of a mayor really like? I mean, I can only imagine.
Every day is different, which is wonderful. This is an incredibly diverse and exciting city. My one constant is the role of mom. So some days start with me tripping over a plastic toy, so it's not always glamorous in the mayor's life. I usually start with some exercise, and then the police and fire department give us a briefing on what's happened in the last 24 hours in the city of Phoenix. Almost every day I get to take my son to preschool, and we have some of the best conversations on the way. Every once in a while, there's something early in the morning. So for example, on the terrible morning of February 11th, I needed to meet Chief Williams on the hospital when our 9 officers were shot. And then my dad is my hero. There's not a lot of daycare at 4 in the morning, and so he's been really great at helping me do this job effectively. I could not be here today without family, but right now, my dad. We spend a lot of time on these announcements you heard today. So when we're recruiting companies, unfortunately, it's just not one meeting usually before they come. We spend a lot of time on public safety, water, and housing these days. There's also really fun moments. So last night I got to celebrate with T-Gen as they marked their 20th anniversary, which is incredible. I've also gotten to help with marriages and engagements. Free services for the mayor to perform your wedding, great price. So it's great to celebrate milestones with people. Councilman Ansari and I just proclaimed Sesquicentennial Day for Phoenix Elementary School District when they celebrated 150, and I had to practice so many times to say sesquicentennial, which was not a word that comes up a lot for me in daily lives. So hopefully we spend most of our time driving the city to be a stronger, but we have some fun along the way, and I have a great team on the council, as well as our hardworking city staff. We just really have so many of the most talented professionals who make all of these announcements possible.
You're right, and I think it's important to recognize that. And to your point, I mean, also you're a mom and you have a young kid, so you're balancing all those things together. I'm sure that it's a lot. But thank you for that, and also thank you for your comments about the men and women in blue. So important, and the fact that we're going to continue to fund them and mental health professionals to ensure that we're able to provide services to those in need. So thank you for your leadership on that. So after listening to your remarks on technology and innovation, obviously high on your priority list, how is the city implementing some of these citywide ideas in other departments?
So we hope to be both a smart region and a smart city. I assume Waymo's on everyone's mind because of if you came in a certain direction or if you were looking at the screens. They are now mapping our downtown and moving towards deployment of fully autonomous vehicles. The city works with them on a variety of different issues related to queuing, charging, innovative new legal challenges. And I think they would tell you that we're a good partner in really working through very different technology. Another partnership I want to highlight is one we have with Axon, which is the company that makes tasers based in Scottsdale, the National League of Cities, and our Phoenix Police Department. We are trying to make sure our officers have the best training for whatever scenarios they might encounter, and we've recently been leading the way on virtual reality training. What we've learned is that there's so much you can get out of reading, but if you really have an experience when you're in the middle of things, it's so much more memorable. So they let me go through a domestic violence training module that some of our officers have done, and I had the chance to both do it from the perspective of an officer that's going to a call at a home where domestic violence is an incident, and so you get to see what the officer goes through and you can react to different scenarios. But then I also got to sit in the shoes of a woman who was part of the call, and it was so interesting for me to think about like what's she thinking in response to the things the officer was saying and really understanding from her perspective. It was incredibly memorable for me, and I can still like remember how the house was decorated and the details, and just going through it. What is an officer thinking, but what is the woman thinking is much richer training than anything you could get more traditionally. And again, Phoenix is using technology in a leading way, and hopefully when our officers are out there, they're more likely to remember all of those feelings and have a more effective call. Final thing I want to highlight on technology is one that's a regional partnership. I mentioned Prop 400 extension, which is our countywide sales tax extension that I hope you'll all get to vote on. And we've put money aside for innovative technology. So that means for years and years to come, we'll have a pool of money for whatever is the best tools to make your commute faster, more time at home with your family, better safety. And just having that dedicated regional pot is very unusual and allows us to stay at the forefront in technology.
Well, it's such an important thing for a guy who still thinks the A-track wasn't a bad idea. I think absolutely important to stay ahead of the curve so that we're not constantly trying to be with the time. So appreciate that perspective along with sort of the real-time training for the police. So when we last spoke, I believe you were about to head to Glasgow for the United Nations Climate Conference. I heard we were ahead. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Phoenix had a very robust presence in Scotland for the United Nations climate talks. Our universities were there. We had several companies from the area. Councilman Ansari and I were both there. And we got a lot of very positive attention. The global community was very interested in some of the things we're doing to manage heat. They really feel like we're on the leading edge. And some of that was solutions like we have the Office of Heat Response and Mitigation. We have programs like the Cool Pavement, where we put a lighter colored coating on the city street, and then ASU has found it's 10 degrees cooler. That felt to other mayors as something that was replicable and something that they could do in their communities, so it was great to be able to share that. I got to brag about our innovative buildings, such as the Helios campus, and how we're leading edge in that area.
It's an amazing campus.
It is. If you have not seen the Helios building,
yes.
Very, very cutting edge. We also had a lot of opportunities to talk about water and how we're preparing for the drought, particularly related to the Colorado River. People were interested in the business community partnerships around water stewardship. There's one that Bonneville is leading. We have companies that are here today. Cox Communications has been very involved, Intel, Microsoft, and others in looking for solutions and partnering with the Central Arizona Water Conservation District, the City of Phoenix and others to say this is an issue that is worthy of the entire community's attention. Government cannot solve this at all, and we want to be on the leading edge there. While I was in Glasgow, I got to join Procter & Gamble, who's also involved in the Colorado River issues in a global partnership with the World Economic Forum. So I'm now the public sector co-chair of 50L Homes, which looks at residential water use, and we're going to be deploying and testing very cutting-edge technologies in Phoenix to address that. So I think we did a good job positioning Phoenix as being a city that's looking for solutions to tough challenges, and one where if you're a global company looking for a North American headquarters that you might want to locate here. GPEC set up for me speed dating while I was there with startups. So I sat down with 23 different startups, and I tried to sell them on Phoenix, and they told me about their companies. Some of them have since located in our community. Speed dating is a lot of work, though, but it was they did a great job, and we have a really robust presence in the UK.
Well, and I think it's so important, and you talk about water. We've all, driving around Phoenix, I know that people complain about the construction, the pipeline. That's a good thing. We're actually moving water, making sure that we're sustainable. Talk to us about, are we in a good place as far as water for the foreseeable future?
So I think you're referring along the 51 right now, and in several other areas of our city, we're building a more connected pipeline network. We appreciate you all working through construction. We're also building a new well network, and we know construction is never fun, but it's really helping us prepare for some more intense droughts. We also have great partnerships with communities across the valley, tribal nations, and others to store water and prepare. And we work closely with the Salt River Project as well to make sure we have as diverse a supply as possible. So we are a desert city. I would ask everyone to remember that, but we're going to continue to invest in both infrastructure and water conservation to address that. We participate in a regional plan where we are leaving some water on the Colorado River and then getting paid to do that, and we're putting that right back into cutting-edge water conservation. So
That's tremendous.
appreciate
news.
the partnership.
No, absolutely. So we're all aware of the price of gas at the pump. And I liked your comments about saying we're going to be the next Detroit. Maybe we're going to build cars. I don't think we'll head the same way. But you know, one of the things I talked about in my opening was your emphasis on charging infrastructure. Clearly, that's going to be important going forward. Talk to us a little bit about that.
We really want to invest in electric vehicles. So this Tuesday, the council will discuss the electric vehicle strategy. I appointed an ad hoc committee that Councilman Ansari is leading, and they'll be reporting back their initial strategy to us, and then we'll go out to the community and ask for your feedback about where we need to be investing, what should be the priorities there, and we'd welcome your feedback. It's been neat to see the economic impact of the industry, so I got to share with you that FoxLink is coming. They are leading edge on the EV industry, and we're attracted by the development we already have here. Appreciate the Technology Council, our utility partners who are all working with us on this strategy. I'm very committed to making sure we get our fair share of Infrastructure and Jobs Act dollars back here as we invest in the federal government invests in electric vehicle infrastructure, and then that's on top of what the city is already doing. Was just at the Phoenix Zoo, which is a favorite place of my young son, and SRP had installed chargers that you can use while you enjoy the Phoenix Zoo there. So in more and more parts of our city, we are seeing that infrastructure for you to really enjoy the modern vehicles, and it makes sense financially right now. Our Chief Sustainability Officer shared with me that if you drive about 12,000 miles per year, which is a pretty common amount, if you get an EV over a decade, you'll save $30,000 looking at where gas prices are right now. So I think if you're creative, you could probably cover a lease payment with those savings. We think with the numbers how they are, we're going to see a lot more demand, and so we are preparing.
Absolutely. My son really wanted a conventional vehicle, and now every time he pays, he sends me a picture of what, and because he has to pay for his own gas, and then wishes he had electric. Well, too bad. Sometimes you get what you ask for. So thanks for that. So last week I was honored to join Councilwoman Guardado and Councilman Garcia down in Hermosillo. You know, such an important investment. Thank you for the rededication of the Hermosillo office. Talk to us a little bit about why that was important.
Mexico is our top trading partner. I'm so grateful that our Consul General is here with us today. We just got the numbers for last year, and I think it was $40 billion in Arizona exports, so huge economic engine, and the ties are even stronger with the supply chain crisis. We saw how valuable that is going to be, but it's not just Hermosillo where we're investing. Mexico City continues to be a priority for us. I mentioned earlier with GPEC that we have a focus on the UK. Our city manager has proposed a budget that has a much more expanded international office and will let us do more in Asia, including in Korea. We just got a sister city in Korea of Suwon, and we expect a lot of economic development between those relationships. The city will likely have a delegation there next year, COVID permitting. You may be interested to know we're having a conversation with the country of Colombia about a sister city there. Todd has some expertise.
That makes me very happy.
In
yes.
Colombia.
A Colombian citizen as well, so thank you.
Yes.
That's wonderful news.
Next month, for the first time ever, the European Union is sending a delegation to visit us here. They are very interested in our advanced manufacturing sector and wanting to partner with us more. And in a few weeks, we'll also have a Calgary delegation with companies that range from solar energy to a Canadian microbrew company. So if anyone has expertise in Canadian beer or you'd like to develop it, let us know.
That's good news. So you know, you mentioned Sky Harbor. I love the mural, by the way. I'm so happy we protected that. You know, talk to us a little bit about what's happening there. I mean, it seems like we're really on the map internationally. Clearly, that's such an important part of that strategy.
Absolutely. So one of the exciting things I got to do this week was send off the first flight on American Airlines back to Heathrow. That was a flight that paused in March of 2020, and the American brought it back earlier than they had expected because of the great economic activity in this community. It joins the British Airways flight, so we are now fully back with London Heathrow service at Sky Harbor to where we were before the pandemic. On May 21st, Frankfurt service. So if you need a summer vacation tip there, you can consider that. And then my first State of the City, when Southwest did the comments, I had challenged them that I wanted nonstop service to Hawaii. And that is still very much going strong, so
I'm going next week, thank you, yes. Absolutely, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it's really good news. And nice to have London and Frankfurt back in the mix. And something that I think is really personal to you and I think a couple years ago, you also instituted sort of training for people at Sky Harbor to deal with folks with Alzheimer's. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what's happening with it?
So Phoenix is the largest dementia-friendly city in the country, which means we look at our city services and try to see how they would best support both caregivers and people experiencing dementia. We both have had families impacted by that diagnosis and want to make it easier for others. So that means our firefighters have great leading edge training. We have more housing options and long-term care. But Sky Harbor has been very exciting and leading edge in that area. There's now a respite center where you can go if you have dementia or a similar diagnosis like autism, and you just need a little bit of place to decompress. We have a lanyard that you can get that's a quite bright lime green with cactus on it. We call it the Compassion Cacti lanyard. And that will signal to our airport team, including the navigators, the folks in the purple jacket, that you might need a little bit of extra time or attention. So we try to make it a less stressful experience when you're at the airport.
Well, I came to light a couple of months ago. I was in Burbank, and there was a dad with his son, and the dad was really struggling. The airport personnel didn't know what to do, and I actually emailed the director of the airport, asked him to get in touch with our folks because it is such an important, it's such an important thing that we do. Get a little teary-eyed here, so I'll move on. So, you know, it's interesting too, traveling around the country, malls seem to be going away. They're another victim of sort of COVID, but here, they seem to be going away, but they're being replaced by new things. Talk to us a little bit about that. I think like Metro Center, PV Mall, all of these malls seem to have this sort of metamorphosis.
Absolutely. I think we all have happy memories of growing up that involve a shopping mall. I will date myself, but with Metro Center, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is one of my associations. To the list you gave, I might add Park Central.
Yeah.
So we've had really exciting redevelopment projects now with thousands of residential units and exciting new retail amenities, really live, work, and play. We have gotten some national attention about these great projects and the amenities that they are bringing, whether it be Creighton, helping educate the next generation of medical professionals, or just the amazing food that they are going to have and gym lifestyle amenities at PV Mall. I think one of the things that helped us on at least two of those light rail investments have really spurred additional uses. We've also used innovative financial tools like a community facilities district that helps us be financial partners on the infrastructure side. We have a great team. It's nice having our city planning subcommittee of the council chaired by our former city planner, Deborah Stark. And then we have an amazing community and economic development team led by Christine Mackey, who just gets in the details, and even if she has to like talk about parking easements, she makes those deals work. So I share those two ingredients because I don't think they're replicable by any other cities, but it is Team Phoenix really partnering with the private sector to make cool projects happen.
I agree, and thanks for mentioning Chris. She's amazing.
She is.
Another one that I don't think sleeps, so thank you for that. Okay, so Super Bowl, around the corner. Pretty exciting. Obviously, we don't play it here, but we are, I think, central in the game and the experience. What's going to be the approach to the city of Phoenix? What can we expect?
Well, first priority is there's been a trend with the home team winning, so shall we continue that?
I like that.
The team at the Convention Center has done an amazing job for us today, and they will be hosting several events related to the Super Bowl. I think many of you may have gone to the NFL experience when we had the Super Bowls, the 2015 Super Bowl. I get to work with great partners such as Visit Phoenix and Downtown Phoenix, Inc. to really tell the story of Phoenix to the people who are visiting. And it is a significantly different story than it was in 2008 or in 2015. We have changed this economy, the economic opportunity here. We hope to use the Super Bowl as a real showcase to let people know that some of the things we've talked about today, that we're really leading in advanced healthcare and semiconductors, higher education, economic opportunity. This is a community where we get things done. And then we also hope that people really have a great experience while they're here. I think we're joined by the chair of the host committee who just got reelected to the SRP board presidency this week. So, appreciate and congratulations.
Well, it will be a great event. Really excited about it. So, you know, as we're kind of wrapping this up, I think it's so, what I like about this is people can see that you're an actual person. You know, you're not just someone who leads city council meetings or is traveling or bringing new companies in. You're actually a real person. Tell us something that you've done as mayor that you never thought you'd do.
So because of the success of our basketball teams, I've had the chance to bet other mayors in championship bets.
It's a good bet this year.
Yes, I'm hoping to have a very winning bet this year. I bet the mayor of Milwaukee last year, and he called me up, and originally he wanted to bet me a Harley. One of my strangest meetings in my mayor's office was like, what is the Phoenix equivalent of a Harley, and what would we do with the Harley if we won? We decided it was safer to go with some more local products, so I think I did Urban Cookies, Huss Brewing, some crafts from the herd, Barrio Cafe as part of my bet. And then the part of the bet was also the mayor had to wear, the losing mayor had to wear the winning team's jersey to a council meeting. If you judge based on my social media accounts, it appears the most interesting thing I have ever done in my life is wear Milwaukee's Bucks jersey to a council meeting. I got antlers drawn on me by the internet and all sorts of excitement around that. But that was something I never expected to do.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, you know, now that we're doing so well, you can probably put up a Lucid Air and know that we'll win. And that's a good thing. See what we could get for Phoenix. So we mentioned Michael, your son, and a guy we've talked about him every year. What's up with him? Is it still trucks?
He is now into dinosaurs.
Okay, yeah, that's
yes.
about right.
So if you'd like to discuss my favorite dinosaur, that was a question I didn't know the answer
Which
to
is?
Before. I'm a Triceratops fan.
Yep.
But yesterday he asked me my favorite hadrosaur, and I was like, are you serious? That's not a thing people have. Or maybe, I don't know, do you all? I got one like yesterday. No, it's Parasaurolophus. Last Friday, I picked him up at school, and he was like very excited to greet me. He says, we made brownies at school today. I'm a chocolate lover, and I was a little bit hungry that Friday, so I was very excited when he presented me with this wrapped tinfoil rectangle. And then I open it, and out comes a cardboard brown letter E. So he made brown E's.
A dad joke already. I love that. That's awesome.
So I made him wrap it up and give it to his dad because I'm a super mature adult. All that work I did to teach him the alphabet, and this is how I get repaid?
He knows his dinosaurs. Well, that's awesome. Well, Mayor, thank you for spending some time with us. We're going to wrap it up with a quick lightning round, just fun, real quick here as we kind of wrap up. Since summer's coming up, summer travel destination for fun.
So my best friend from high school had the great intelligence to become a marine biologist, so we're doing beach camp.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, that's a good one. That is the right answer. Favorite book you're reading right now?
So in theory, I'm reading this great book on green energy, but last night I read about dinosaurs, and then like after I got home from T-Gen, the Oscar dresses, just Jessica Chastain's dress was,
all right.
It's not high level, but it's honest.
All right, and for Jessica, who's running the whole show here, favorite Disney character, since you have a 5-year-old.
So I just watched Encanto, and we listen to the music constantly, so it'd probably have to be something from, and it says Colombian.
And it's Colombia, so on that bombshell, let's thank you, Mayor, for being with us. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you, Mayor. Want to thank the mayor and her team. Especially want to thank Janine LaCure, Clark Princell, and David Drennan for all their work. Also, the staff here that did such a wonderful job. Let's give them a round of applause. Last but not least, my incredible team at the Phoenix Chamber. They are amazing. Thank you, and don't forget to support Ukraine. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.